So completely, and as motorcyclists, we all get that. You don't have to explain that to a motorcyclist. Hi, my name is Scott Collins. I've been riding in Victoria for about 30 years. I ride street, off-road, enduro mostly. I'm also a licensed technician and a government inspector. Motorcycling is all consuming. It's who I am, it's what I do, it's what I do in my spare time. My first motorcycle experience was about, actually no, realistically we go way back. In the neighborhood, some friends, they had one of those little, I guess it was a rigid frame Briggs & Stratton motorcycle. We used to ride it around the neighborhood. I guess that was probably around 10 or 11 when that happened. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it wasn't so much, I just knew I drew pictures of motorcycles. I envisioned being a motorcyclist. I remember one trip when we came back from Long Beach when I was about the same age, I actually envisioned, while looking out the back of the camper, watching the road and stuff, imagining myself riding a motorcycle on that road. And then decades later, I had a really an epiphany moment where I was drawn back to that memory as I was actually riding the road, and it was like I had pre-seen it. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you know, sometimes when you go after something, it just ends up being in that moment exactly what you envisioned, and it was really cool. But as far as actually getting into motorcycling, a high school friend of mine, he got a bike. We were going to learn together on that bike one summer, and I'd bought a helmet, the whole 9 yards, and unfortunately our friendship kind of devolved to the point where that didn't happen. And I had this helmet I was carting around, a Marushan of all things, and I've been carrying that around for a few years. I bought my first bike and taught myself how to ride in 1989. I bought a GS 500 from Douglas Motorcycles, which was a Honda dealership right on Douglas Street. It was sold to me by a really amazing man, Dave Hunt, who became a long-time fixture in the motorcycle community in Victoria. What was really funny though was as I was teaching myself how to ride it out of the store, they had a very steep hill. And I remember a young kid watching me try to ride this bike up the hill, and you could just tell he had that look on his face like, putts. And I got to the top of the hill, and the young lad turned out to be one of Victoria's best motorcycle mechanics, Mark Burgess. And he'd been at it for 30 years too. So it's funny to look back at where your beginnings are, and to be able to go so firmly that you remember that exactly. But when you start out, you don't know where you're going to end up. And when people see me and stuff, they just ask me that question. I go, it's kind of like osmosis. It's like when my motorcycling became all consuming and I couldn't think of anything other than riding every minute of the day while I wasn't working. Like every Friday I'd go to work with all my gear on my bike. I'd head for the ferries and be gone all weekend, just doing lots of road trips down to Washington State, and getting as many people in on this gag as I possibly could. It's turned into huge groups of my friends that I would just go on these rides with. And it's kind of actually, in even saying that, it leads into where I'm going as well. I got recruited into my first motorcycle shop when my marriage went sideways and it was over. I realized I'd been in a really great job, but it was a responsible parental husband type job. And because that didn't exist anymore for me, I decided, hey, I'll do something that I want to do. And I got recruited into the motorcycle industry by Jamie Emery. And I went to work for Victoria Honda Suzuki. And it wasn't a good fit for me. It was okay, and then they changed, and I decided to bail on that. And then I go, was it that experience that made me want to not be in the motorcycle industry, or was it just the way it worked out? And then I immediately said, yeah, no, I still want to do this, but I want to do it my way. And I went to work at another bike dealership, and it was a really valuable experience in the fact that I got to be a service manager. So I knew how to do parts, and I could sell motorcycles, but now I had a better more round idea of the service side of it as well. So when I left that job, within a couple of days, I went at the bike shop idea again, only this time the idea of using the cooperative model. And the name, it all just kind of popped in my head. And within 30 days, we went from an idea to a co-op document to a business plan to finding a location, getting all of our investors, and starting what, looking back on it now, I can kind of have the benefit of two worlds there. I can laugh at myself for thinking that like such an underfunded project could actually survive. And then the flip side of that is I can be really super proud about the fact that a super underfunded project has not only survived, but it's got a following and a reputation that I couldn't be happier about. My very first dirt bike, I said to myself, I want to learn all the skills I need to be able to ride a big bike. And this is long before adventure riding was a thing, long before the Charlie Borman and Ewan McGregor scenario. It was, I want to be able to ride a big bike and I want to be able to ride around the world kind of thing. That was the thinking of doing that. And so I progressed for, I guess, another couple decades learning the skills to do that kind of stuff. I've been lucky enough to ride in Baja, and then recently we've been riding in Vietnam, and so that it's reached a point now where the third stage of that addiction is kicked in, where not only do I've got all these skills, but now I want to start putting them into play. Everything I've done, like I say, that osmosis part of it, it's kind of like got recruited into a bike shop for the discount, got started my own bike shop for the even better discount. And then we were doing track days in the States where we go down, we ride our bikes as fast as we possibly can and desire on a closed course where it's much safer, much rewarding. But it's always about getting the deal for me. It's always been about how can I cut the cost down to make it attainable for myself and share the experience with my friends. And that's why we're sitting in this bus, actually. It was another mechanism. We did track days, and I was like, I've got this really cool bus, which I was going to convert into like a living situation, and decided, no, it was way much more fun to share it with my friends. We built it as a bunkhouse, and it supports surprisingly 12 motorcyclists. So at its max, it'll carry 12 bikes and a dozen people, and we'll go do adventures with it. So far it's been to Mexico twice. We've done Baja. It's been to Moab, Utah. We've done that. Done a lot of local stuff. But my role in riding has always been doing group stuff. And it's always been doing stuff where I end up invariably leading every ride.
Are you happy leading every ride? Would you like to sit back and enjoy and let someone else organize?
I do really get a kick out of that. There's something that actually some other friends who I met through the bike shop organized some off-road rallies and stuff, and I started doing events where I would just show up.
That trip like?
It was awesome. Just a weekend thing. We blasted up to we put 4 bikes in the back of a truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had 3 in the box and mine on the tail, and we ripped up to Roslyn, and it was hosted by Red Mountain, which I didn't realize was such a historical place. And they let us ride to the top of 3 of their mountains, and they did a huge scavenger hunt around the entire area of the Kootenays. So we got to ride all kinds of really cool tracks and stuff, and collect points, and then there's a big thing at the end where they gave away a bunch of prizes and stuff. But really well run event, and it was super fun. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I really love that. I think that's really cool. Like right now, I have a total travel bug to Mexico, Japan. See the MotoGP there and do some really amazing experiences. Got to tour the Arrive factory, off to Vietnam again. I just got back from doing a trip to Quebec. We're going to be hitting another one of the backcountry discovery routes this summer, which I've fallen in love with, and there's a lot of them. So I could really foresee doing a few of those, at least a few a year kind of thing as you ramp it up. I'd like to do Idaho. There's so much amazing world to see, and when you see it on a motorcycle, it's just that much better. We know that you can smell everything and feel everything, and it's just that much better. And that heightened sense of experience is what ties us together as motorcyclists. Is that I know what you're thinking and feeling about this. So, hey, we can be buddies. And it was really funny is out of this latest trip to Vietnam is one of the gentlemen that came with us didn't do any homework at all. And so every time we got anywhere, he'd get off his bike and lose his mind. He's like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm going, yeah, it's awesome. Isn't it great that you didn't know this is where we were going? Didn't know a thing. And it's like, part of me is kind of like, I wish I could actually do trips like that where I, like you said, let other people lead and you show up and you're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I didn't know there'd be a giant waterfall here, or whatever it is. Monkeys, like in that particular case, there was monkeys. And I've been racing with the Victoria Supermotor Club for 6 years now. I mean, it's a chance to ride around. It's incredibly affordable. It's local. It's a great, amazing group of people. But we also do racing once a month, and it's free to come out and watch. And it's a hoot. It's like, how do you challenge yourself and actually, measure your performance, measure how much better you're getting? I mean, the skills that you can get out of just that type of riding translates to everything. I've had instances where I've avoided collisions just because I can turn a motorcycle on the front tire with the rear one way up in the air. And I can still come to a controlled stop and stuff like that. And people go, wow. And I go, well, these are drills and experiences you get out of riding this kind of ride. So we got a couple supermoto bikes. The bus is actually full of them right now. Again, that cooperative thing, it's really hilarious. Last year I sponsored like 11 supermoto racers. So we had a team, and it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. It was really simple. I said, we're just going to help each other, like help people get tire warmers on and off their bike, make sure they're prepared, make sure they've got water. And just that, knowing there are people in your corner. I mean, I helped a little bit with the sponsorship of gear and tires and whatever basic bike maintenance. And we did a graphic package for all the bikes, whatever it is. But because we came together as a team and cut those costs, we were able to all do better. And in the end, our team, we dominated. We won 4 or 5 classes, and we won the overall. And I got not only on top of the first for the team championship, which was such a slaughter fest, they're not going to let us do it anymore. We got best of show just because it was fun. We were having a good time. And wearing a loop shirt for the Lower Island Riding Club, which I'm a big fan of because it's a very positive environment and welcoming to all kinds of riders and stuff like that. But even still, that's a group that really is all about, going out and riding a lot. It's not even, the social aspect of it is good, but it's the sharing of the camaraderie of the ride and going out and doing stuff. Like riding motorcycles is a very individual thing, but when you share any kind of really cool heightened experience with friends, it gets that much better. And just like any adventure sport, it's a heightened sense of awareness of your imminent chance of fatality that makes it so exciting. And then that bond, and then we're all sharing in that trench mentality of you got to take care of each other.
Well, I was in Amsterdam and I was walking and I saw a 1200 GSA, and a guy was just walking towards it, getting his helmet on, and I just rolled the dice, figured I'd walk over and start chatting. It was just such a natural conversation that evolved, and it was so normal. And he had never ridden over here, I've never ridden in Europe, yet we had this great conversation about riding in general and our experiences.
Yeah, well, it's that shared experience. Like fundamentally, it doesn't matter what kind of riding you're doing. There are large parts of it that overlap.
Yeah.
And that experience, and it's cool the way you described that. The guy was wandering over to his motorcycle and getting geared up. It doesn't matter what you ride. The process of gearing up.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like people say, what is it about motorcycling that you love so much? I go, I love it all. I love cleaning the motorcycle. I love the moment when you slide the gloves on. I like the moment when you put the key in the ignition. You see the lights come up and everything happens, and it's like systems, and it's
letting that clutch out.
Yeah, letting that clutch out. It's a ritual. It's very ritualistic. What's really funny is I remember there are many occasions where I've been all the way, like say, to Calgary or something, and I've ridden all the way home in one day. And the amount of memories and experiences and things you've seen and the close calls you've had,
Yeah.
and the number of times that I would get into the driveway at home and I'd park the bike and you could hear it ticking, and you pull the keys out and you get your gear off, and just as you're about to turn away from the motorcycle, you turn back and you look at the bike and you go, wow, we did something so outrageous today, and I can't believe we're here, but thank you very much. And you give the bike a kiss and you go, wow. It's an inanimate object. It's a collection of mechanical parts and wires and stuff like that. It is not a living, sentient thing. But without you, it can't be what it is, and without it, you can't be what you are together.
It's funny you say that about it not being a living thing. Like when I picked up this new bike, and I was at the dealership the other day, and I seen my old one sitting out there, kind of, a little dirty. I felt bad. I felt guilty, like I was abandoning this bike.
Fred,
yeah, I was abandoning my friend.
It's like, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, and it's always interesting to see you go on a 2-week riding adventure with a friend or several friends, which I always find it interesting. It's kind of like, you'd be together nonstop for meals and sleeping and joking and all the stories that come out of that kind of stuff. And as you're all coming home down the Pathé Highway or since Transit, whatever it is, you're very close to terminating. And there's that moment where you know that your buddy's turning off to go to his house and you're going to your house, and then you'll just like, it'll all end with just a simple wave.
Yeah.
It's like you've gone from total immersion to goodbye with just a simple wave. Everybody I know are all my good friends. They're all connections I've made through riding motorcycles. What I do, oh my God, no, I still would be totally at a loss for what to do. I mean, travel is travel. That's fundamentally, traveling and doing it by motorcycle is super rewarding, and that's what I like to do. But if I couldn't ride a motorcycle, impossible that, like, I have a really great imagination and I can imagine a lot of stuff, but I can't say, what would your life be like? No. There's no answer to that.
Right.
It's like a pure work of fiction at this point.